guys, happy Monday and happy Independence Day. Celebrating this great country we live in, one nation under God, everything like that. Sorry for a difference in location. I'm shooting this on Wednesday night, which is the 3rd, trying to get everything done before, camps and everything like that. So trying to get everything done a little bit early. I'm going to go ahead and lose this goofy hat. But anyway, like I said, we'll be finishing up in Matthew chapter 7, so flip over. We're going to start in verse 24. It says, "Therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who builds his house on the rock. The rain fell, the rivers rose, the winds blew and pounded the house, yet it did not collapse because its foundation was on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain fell, the rivers rose, the winds blew and pounded the house, and it collapsed. It collapsed with a great crash." When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were astonished at his teaching, because he was teaching them like one who had authority and not like their scribes. That is verse 29 that we're finishing up in. So, first point I want to make this week is that, number one, we serve an awesome, mighty, wonderful God. How do I know that? Because you look at verse 29, it says, when Jesus finished, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he was teaching like one who has authority and not like their scribes. So, what Jesus did was he came in and he completely revolutionized their teachings. He completely revolutionized their religion, and everything that they had ever stood on as far as from a religious perspective was turned on its head and turned upside down. And we see that because when they hear him speak, they're astonished at his words. And that word astonished is only used a few times in the Bible, and it just really shows like a great reverence and a great almost not understanding what you're seeing. Like, it means that much, and it's so powerful as far as that goes. Second point that I want to bring up today, guys, and I'm going to be quick because we're shooting in somebody's living room because of the holidays. So, second thing I want to bring up is when Jesus is talking about these two choices that you have, he's saying you can either choose to build your foundation on the rock, on solid footing, or you can build it on this sand foundation. And you look at those two things and what it means and what he's trying to say. He's already, as we talked about last week, we talked about not everyone saying, "Lord, Lord," will enter this kingdom of heaven. Well, the people that he's talking about are the people who are building their faith on this shifting foundation. And everything looks good and everything feels good, and you build your house, so you've at least gotten that far. But what happens at that point? The rain starts coming. Things in life get difficult. You're tested financially. Your marriage is tested. Your relationships. Whatever. God starts testing you through these things. And because your foundation is not solid, it crumbles your faith and it cuts your faith off at the knees. And what it does is basically what you're doing is you had all this wonderful faith and all these things built up, and then all of a sudden when it gets tough, it cuts out from under you. So the good foundation, someone who builds their faith and someone who strengthens their faith, they stand better and they stand stronger when those winds and the rain and the temptation and the hard parts of life come in. And so what separates somebody? This will be the last point. What separates somebody from the rock foundation versus the sand foundation? Well, it's like anything else. You build it on your knowledge of the Bible, and you build it on your love of Jesus. So we talked about last week, if you love me, you will keep my commands. But how can you keep commands that you don't know? It's the same thing with this foundation. How can you build a foundation from, a human standpoint with tools that you don't have? With concrete that you don't have, with wood that you don't have, with things that you don't have? How do you expect to build a proper foundation? Same thing in Christianity. If you're not starting from a point where you can build and you're not giving yourself the proper tools and the proper chances, then it starts to be a problem and you don't have that solid foundation. And what happens? You get tested and things start coming up in your life, and all of a sudden your foundation crumbles. It's like we said last week, James 2:24, faith without works is dead. So having those good works, having that knowledge, and putting yourself in the proper position, that's how you establish a good relationship, and by establishing that good relationship, you keep your foundation strong. So guys, going to be a little quick this week, like I said, because of everything kind of bouncing off the walls. Happy Monday, everybody. Do something for God this week. Like, share, subscribe.